Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here joining me today on Tuesday. It is September 9th, 2025. We are live. So happy to have you, and thank you so very much for joining. Just to let you guys know, this channel, the Jaybefaunt channel, is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Tuesdays for the Savvy and JB show and Sundays for the JB show. Also, if you guys would like to, please go ahead and give a like to the stream already if you guys like what you're watching. But if you guys would like to wait till the end to give your opinion, that's fine as well. So thank you very much for that. And please do not forget to share and subscribe as well. If you guys would like to, you guys can also join my Substack. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. You guys can go to jaybefaunt.substack.com. And also, if you guys would like for me to react to any videos or questions that you guys may have, you guys can do that to QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. Thank you so very much for that there. Guys, today has been a huge newsworthy day. It is a lot going on, especially internationally, as we can see. There's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things are unfolding as at the moment. So things can change on a dime right now. But before we get into that, I just want to also give a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. Thank you so very much for keeping the lights on around here. Thank you so very much. And here are the tiers that we are going to take a look at. The tiers? Yes, the tiers. Thank you so very much to Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters. We have Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you to all future new members that come in. It is deeply appreciated. Thank you very much for being part of the family as well. And don't forget, my channel is also demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. So thank you very much for that. You can also see the patrons that are on the bottom of the screen that are flowing through. So you guys can see that there as well. Let's get into saying our hellos and our salutations to some of the people in the chat, and then we will go on to our stories for today. All right, so we have GP coming in saying, I'm done with property taxes. I've already paid what I paid for the house in 10 years. How is that not renting from the government? Well, I mean, you have a point there. I actually had the discussion with this with Sabby on Thursday last week on RBN, how we both agree that property taxes should be finished by the time you pay off your house, or by the time you and by pay off, I mean pay off the principal. Like, let's say you owe $300,000 on your house. Well, you should pay the tax on that principal $300,000. So the tax should go towards that. And by the time you end up paying all that, it should be finished. No addition of any interest or anything like that. It should forego that because it's the tax. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people. Or if you want to pay all the tax at once, you should be able to pay all the tax at once and not have to pay it ever again. Right? I think that's how I think it should be. Or the tax could be figured as part of the loan, and it doesn't keep going once you pay off the house. Edward says, "What's up, JB? What's up, Edward? So good to see you in here." All right, CBC voter coming in saying, "I'm seeing different boats in the flight towards Gaza." Absolutely, there's going to be more. After we talk about what's going on today, I foresee a lot more happening. And then CBC voter continues, says drone strike is the story. Yeah, that's definitely going to be our first story that we're going to be discussing. Edward says the Israeli government has no ounce of humanity for their drone strikes, and Matt Taibbi is a disgrace for defending the genocidal maniac Barry Weiss. It is quite unfortunate that Matt Taibbi decided to defend a monstrous person like Barry Weiss. What influence is there? I'm very curious. It is not good. And also, I have to say this. If you are an investigative journalist and you have been watching a genocide happen for the last almost 3 years, and you don't have an opinion on it. You're an investigative journalist who talks about government corruption and censorship, and you don't have an opinion on this after, I'm sorry, almost 2 years? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Thank you very much. Jacqueline says, hey, JB, listening to your interview with Madeline Pendleton at the moment. Say hello to Madeline for me. Says, great interview as usual. Hey, everyone. Oh, that's right. You're watching my interview with her. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Terry Conley says, greetings, JB and comrades. I got your name right. You thought I wasn't. I got it. I got it right. Okay. Great. Good to see you. Holly Horn coming in saying, hi, JB. Hello, Holly. Good to see you in here. All right. Yeah, Ig says, when will the world realize we cannot allow this to continue? Israel and the U.S. will not stop. So good to see JB. Good to see you too. How are you? How in the hell are you? Nice to see you. Zach coming in saying property taxes shouldn't exist, period. I mean, look, I'll put it this way. There has to be a way in order for us to fund things, right? And that's part of the collectively, right? But at the same time, I think that property taxes should stop once the property is fully paid off. You know, just like they do in China. There's no reason to continue to pay on something indefinitely. That doesn't make sense. So I think the property taxes should, once the house is fully paid off, then no property taxes. And if you inherit that house from a family member, you shouldn't have to pay property taxes on that either. Yeah. Eid says, agree. Zach Davis is it's based on perceived value of your property. Let me see. Let's pretend like we didn't see that one. Yes, Zach says the genocide has been happening for 76 years now. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And Jacqueline says, not sure if it's true, but there were a couple of people in the Heartlands media chat saying that Matt Taibbi has been offered a position at CBS News. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Some people, they're not as strong as you think they are. You know, that's the thing. I mean, yeah. And then we'll start with one more. Roger Meadows says, here's a thought: free housing from decommodified housing, but you have to pay property taxes. So you're not paying for the housing because it's free and commodified, but you're paying property tax. I mean, if, I don't know. It's still an ongoing conversation, but we'll get into it another time. But let's get into the stories that we're going to get into today. Oh, my goodness. Let's get into this. So what are we talking about? You guys saw the thumbnail. It's going to be big stories. So later in the show today, we're going to be talking about a rent spike in Florida, up 40%. My goodness. Is the rent too damn high? Well, you'll hear from me. We're going to be talking about it because it is too damn high. But also towards the middle of the show, we're going to be talking about North Korea and a story that actually came out recently about what happened. And this is a big story that should get a lot more news, but unfortunately it is not. And this is a story that actually came out of the New York Times. And why is Trump involved? Well, we'll get into that all in the story. But first, we're going to be discussing a drone strike on the Sumud Flotilla that happened off the coast of Tunisia. And as you can see, two of the people who were passengers on the Sumud Flotilla are Greta Thunberg and Greg Stoker. So these are two of the people who are on. There are some of the most notable people here in the West that were on the flotilla. So we'll be talking about that right now. So we're getting into this. Flotilla bombed. This is an intense story. Let's get into it. So it is sad that the governments that we are under really allow their hands to be tied when it comes to giving real substantial substantive aid to Israel, doing an arms embargo, putting sanctions on Israel, and divesting from Israel as an entity. And so what we know, especially that has been going on, is a lot of the aid that has been really at the gates to Gaza have been held back. They're being prevented from going through, or it's a very small trickle to the point where you have hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that are starving to death, or I should say being starved to death by the Israeli government. And so as we see this unfold, there have been many crews that have been volunteering their time and energy to doing humanitarian aid and taking a flotilla, a boat with humanitarian aid supplies to Gaza to help the people. And these flotillas consist of things like baby formula, prosthetics for limbs, medicine, diapers, food. That's what these things consist of. And are they dangerous? Absolutely not. If at the very most that you can say, at the very least you can say, these are life-sustaining things that are there for the people of Gaza so that they don't die off, which is the goal of the Zionist regime. And so we've had flotillas happen over and over. In the latest one, there was the Sumud Flotilla that actually took off a few weeks ago, a little over a week and a half ago. And the Sumud Flotilla actually has went on their way, and of course they had encountered some difficulty from, especially from the Israeli entity. So one of the things I want to share is, let me see. I wanted to share with you guys the video of them talking about their leaving to go to cover, to help the Palestinian people on the Sumud Flotilla. Let me make sure I have it here, because a lot of people don't realize that this flotilla is something that is life is going to be saving many lives. And so this flotilla has, make sure I have this here. There's been a lot of news lately. Okay. So let's share this here first, and then we will get into what exactly happened. All right. So it says a flotilla challenging Israel's blockade in Gaza arrives in Tunisia with Greta Thunberg among its members.
We are going with dozens of boats that represents more boats that ever attempted to break the siege of Gaza combined, with more people that ever attempted to break the siege combined. And we are going there in a humanitarian solidarity, non-violent mission that is combined with the global uprising that you're doing here in Tunisia and everywhere else in the world.
Actuellement, c'est historique, c'est inédit. Il n'y a jamais eu une initiative citoyenne. This genocide is being enabled and fueled by our governments, our institutions, our companies, our elected officials who are supposed to represent us. End your complicity.
So if anybody remembers, you know, Greta Thunberg, she went famous for being this young child at the time, where she was shaming basically the world for their complicity in climate change. But now she has really blossomed into this freedom fighter for against Western hegemony, this freedom fighter who has been fighting against exploitation, against people in the global South, using her privilege in order to be able to do that, which I should note. A lot of people do not talk about how people like herself are using their privilege as a means to bring to the fore what's going on, what our governments are doing in this world. And so I want to share as well exactly what happened to the Freedom Flotilla. And there are many people who were aboard this flotilla who actually were put in danger. And by whom? It is estimated that it was Israel. And there have been some people saying that it might have, you know, it could have been somebody on behalf of Israel. So I just want to share this first. This is on board the flotilla, and we shall get to this. And then there's another video from a vantage point that I want to share as well. If those of you haven't seen it yet, then this is going to be your first time seeing it. Please keep an eye on this and make sure to share the story as well. So this is the flotilla right here from one of the cameras. And they're off the coast of Tunisia, right near Tunis, which is the capital of Tunisia.
We've been hit by what appears to be a drone. The vessel's on fire. There's a fire in the front deck. We've been hit. We have been hit. The vessel is on fire. We are off the coast of Tunis. It was a loud explosion. I was on the top deck. The police are arriving. Paddy, it was a massive explosion. Are we abandoning ship? I don't know. Bring this on. It was a massive explosion. A massive explosion. Just meters away. We've been hit by what appears to be a drone. It's gonna be okay? Guys, we have been attacked in what appears to be a drone attack. The vessel is on fire. I repeat, the vessel is on fire. We were on the family boat at about 11:30 p.m. A loud explosion came from the boat is on fire.
So that's the flotilla right there on fire as last night.
Et au secours, il y avait une sorte de, je sais pas c'est quoi, mais c'était une sorte d'explosion. Là, c'est live. J'espère que les personnes vont bien. Là, je vois.
So the horrible part is, what threat were they to anyone? What threat were they to civilians? What threat were they even to the military? They are a peaceful, unarmed vessel carrying humanitarian aid, and violence was struck on them for daring to do a peaceful act of giving food, medicine, and other forms of aid to a people that are going through a Holocaust. And so this is why so many people are speaking out now. This is why so many people are saying that Palestine needs to be free, because of acts like this, just daring to put the lives of people who are trying to deliver humanitarian aid in danger. And so I want to share this other vantage point, because it didn't really capture how intense this was. But I want everybody to see this as well. This is the vantage point from outside of the boat on a neighboring vessel. Let's take a look here. So here you have right there. So as you can see, it came from the sky, right? See, it came from the sky from a drone. And why am I emphasizing this? Why am I emphasizing that this came from the sky from a drone? Because now you have some authorities that are saying, oh, they started that fire. So it was start the fire on the boat. Does that look like somebody started the fire on the boat? Does that look like self-sabotage to you? The video evidence is right there. But according to some, well, started on the boat. Let's go here. So this says Gaza aid flotilla attacked by drone, organizers say. Tunisian authorities said the explosion came from inside the vessel, rejecting the claim it was hit off the country's coast. You guys saw exactly what I saw. It did not come from the vessel. It came from the sky. And guess what? They said they not only saw, but heard a drone. Tunisian officials, what are you saying? Are you saying that it couldn't have been a drone? Are you not aware of the capabilities of an entity like Israel? Let's get into this article just a little bit. It says Tunisian officials dispute the account, saying the explosion came from inside the vessel. It says acts of aggression aimed at intimidating and derailing our mission will not deter us. That was a statement from the global Sumud Flotilla. Our peaceful mission will break the siege in Gaza and stand in solidarity with its people, continuing with determination and resolution. It says the explosion caused fire damage to the Portuguese flag boat's main deck and below deck storage, but all 6 passengers and crew are safe. With around 20 boats and participants from 44 countries, including activist Greta Thunberg, the group is the largest civilian maritime attempt to break the Israeli blockade of the Palestinian territory. Says Tunisian officials rejected the allegations, saying that the explosion occurred inside the vessel. A National Guard spokesperson told local media that claims of a drone attack on the flotilla have no basis in truth. Wait, no basis in truth? No basis in truth? Hold up. You mean to tell me that that's no basis in truth? As we have seen, this footage of a fire coming down onto the boat and causing a fire and destruction on the top deck? And you mean to tell me there's no basis? There's no evidence when you got video right there? Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you hear with your ears. You're mistaken. Is this what the Tunisian officials are saying? See, the governments and the people are two different entities. Because from what it looks like, the people who are in Tunisia, they're standing in solidarity. But what about the people in the governments? Let's continue here. It says, Miguel Duarte, a crew member, said that the suspected drone stopped close to the flotilla, moved slowly to the front, and then dropped what was obviously a bomb on the forward part of the deck. He said, let me be clear 100%. It was a drone dropping a bomb on the forward deck of our ship. He said his team was absolutely certain that this was a drone attack. He says, I'm okay, but we could have been killed, citing the deaths during the Israel-Hamas genocide of humanitarian and medical workers. It's not a war, it's a genocide that Israel's committing. So it says, if it is confirmed that this is a drone attack, it will be an assault on aggression against Tunisia and against Tunisian sovereignty. That's from Francesca Albanese. And again, we cannot keep on tolerating this and normalizing the illegal. So this is exactly what happened. And a lot of people, like for instance, some of these corporate outlets like NBC News will be like, well, the Tunisian authorities say that it's not actually, it actually didn't come from outside of the boat. But you saw the footage there. So we all know that's a lie because they literally have the footage there. And I want to go here because I think it is important to get their accounts of what actually happened. So what I'm going to do, let me see if can I fast forward on here? I don't know. I don't know if I can fast forward on Instagram. See, that's the thing about Instagram. Instagram, they don't allow you to fast forward. You just have to play and just let it go through. I should have did this beforehand. me see. While I'm waiting on that, let me see here as well. Share with you what Greg Stoker actually has said, because I think this is also important as well. So I'm going to share what Greg Stoker says, and then we'll get to the press conference that they held in Tunisia. All right, so let's get into this.
This now with Greg Stoker, a military and geopolitical analyst at Mint Press News. He was on one of the boats in the flotilla and joins us from Tunisia. Greg, we appreciate you speaking to us. We're now hearing from the Tunisian National Guard, which says their initial inspections show the explosion on the boat was caused internally and seemingly not from a drone. How closely do flotilla organizers work with local authorities in such an investigation that appears to be giving contradictory statements?
Well, first of all, this all happened very quickly. The investigation is ongoing. We are currently reviewing our own security footage, taking witness statements, but based off of our position for the flotilla and our media team, it's definitely indicative that, yes, it was a drone. We have video and audio of a drone overhead, people calling it out, witness statements, and an explosion on the top deck. And photographic evidence of burned life vests, which is where they were staged on the front of the deck of the family Madeira. And yes, we are going to take this one step at a time and only present factual information. So we don't know what actors were involved. We don't know what the purpose behind it was. We can only suspect, but that is our position right now. The National Guard sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, please continue. Because I did want to ask that this is obviously a dangerous journey that all of you are embarking on, considering that for the last 15 years, no flotilla has been able to get close to Gaza. They've either been intercepted or attacked by Israel. What kind of precautions are being taken going forward for this flotilla, knowing the capabilities and the danger going forward?
Well, this flotilla is a humanitarian operation trying to deliver aid into a population facing state-sponsored annihilation in Gaza and to open a humanitarian corridor in a way that our governments have failed collectively in the Congress of Nations. So we don't have any diplomatic cover necessarily, no military backing. This is, again, a humanitarian operation. We have had precedents in the past of Israeli forces massacring foreign aid workers. The Mari Mariv back in Marmara back in 2010. Most recently, the World Central Kitchen convoy last year. So yes, we are taking very precautions, but one of the biggest, I guess, information, not necessarily weapons, but tools we have is basically just presenting to the world that this is a humanitarian effort. We are private citizens trying to embark on this operation. And yes, we know that it's dangerous. We expect intense psychological operations from the Israeli government going forward to deter us. We've seen over the past couple of days, Minister Ben-Gvir say that anyone who comes in to try to deliver aid into Gaza will face sentences in, quote, terror prisons in order to deter future flotillas or humanitarian actions happening again. We anticipate certain things like what journalists endure in Gaza, with intelligence officers calling phones of activists, journalists in the flotilla, ship's captains, threatening them. We expect doxing, our names, addresses to be released, any form of intimidation to deter this. We are accounting for. So what was this drone attack? We're not really sure. What actors were behind it? We're not really sure, but it does seem like a psychological operation. However, it doesn't seem like any substantive damage was done to the ship, and the flotilla will sail undeterred.
So let's stop there for a second, because I think this is very important. I want you to realize the amount of sacrifice that is happening when people like the people who are on this flotilla are embarking on, because it won't just end if they're successful and they deliver the humanitarian aid, or if they're unsuccessful and they get intercepted by Israel. It's not just going to stop there. That's just the beginning, because when they get home, you're going to have a lot of the racist Zionist entity people who are going to come after them, and they're going to try to ruin their lives for simply trying to give humanitarian aid to the people of Palestine, to the people of Gaza. And history will view the people who are going against these humanitarian aid workers in a negative light, and the aid workers will be seen as heroes. A long list of heroes who have been trying to do what they can in order to stop this genocide. And so I want to really hone in on the fact that they are not, this isn't just a week and a half's point in time, and then that's it. They have went over and mulled over the contingencies and as well as the possibilities and scenarios in their mind of what could happen in their life for embarking on such a mission. And you're doing it from the imperial core. Many of these people come from Western countries, Western nations. And so because of that, what we can see now is once they're able to get, if they're able to get this humanitarian aid there, I'm hoping they can. But either way you look at it, Israel's lost, because this is just another nail in the coffin in the information war that proves that this genocidal settler or colonial state has no legitimacy on the world stage, and that is bringing nothing but death and destruction to people. And remember, the Greater Israel Project is not just trying to clear out Gaza. It's not just trying to clear out all of Palestine. It's trying to go into Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon. It's trying to expand beyond that, because it is not just a settler colonial project. It's also a settler imperialist project, meaning that they want to increase the size of the empire. And they are basically twofold in their goal to own the world, just like the United States, essentially. So that's one of the biggest issues that we can see. And so I'm hoping that more people understand the gravity of the situation and exactly what's going on, exactly what happens, and stand in solidarity. And I know of a medical personnel that has actually went to Gaza. They are in Gaza as we speak, providing medical care to Palestinians right now. They're only able to eat one time a day. Diets consist of lentils, maybe peanut butter, and trying to heal the sick and the wounded that Israel is creating. And so I think that's what's important for us to know, is that what they're doing there is absolutely abhorrent. And we need to keep speaking out against this, because we all know, especially those of us who are Black, that our government has exported genocide to other nations, but like a boomerang, the intensity of it comes back. So the genocide started in the West, and the Native Americans and those of us who are American freedmen. It got exported out into other countries, and now, like a boomerang, it will come back, and at greater intensity than it ever has been in a long time. And so this is why it's important for us to continue to speak out against this. And so let's let Greg continue in his commentary.
That is good news, of course, for those, I believe, 17 vessels that are now anchored in Tunisia before you head off. Greg, can you explain to us what the next steps are now in the flotilla actually moving towards Gaza, and how long you think it will take before you possibly reach the shores where you would be able to deliver that humanitarian aid?
Well, it's important to remember that, this is going to take some time. We have no military infrastructure. We do not have a tax base to cover complex naval contingency plans. We are forced through the sailing season to sail now. There is no other choice as we watch the final solution being enacted in Gaza. I come from a military background. Do I wish things were more structured and we had better infrastructure? Of course, but we don't really have a choice. We have to sail now. And yes, we are reconsolidating, refitting in Tunisia to head out towards Gaza in the coming days. So if you're looking for an exact timeline, well, we want that too, but we are doing the best we can, remembering that it's our governments who should be doing this and intervening in the world's first live stream genocide.
Greg Stoker, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, and good luck to you and everyone on board that flotilla. We do hope that you embark on your journey safely. Thank you very much.
So this is part and parcel of what our government is allowing. This is part and parcel of what the West is allowing. And I just got to say this. Maybe this is petty of me. Maybe some people may say this is petty of me, but it is what it is. So all the people that rejected me as a friend, who said we're no longer friends anymore because you stand with the people of Palestine, and you're watching this Holocaust play out, do you feel like a fool now? Do you? Do you feel like, oh my gosh, why is all these people being murdered? They keep going back to the 1,200 people that were killed on October 7th. They keep going back to that. But it's estimates that have reached 400,000 Palestinians that have been murdered. 400,000. This was never about hostages. This was never about avenging deaths of people that were killed on October 7th, that died on October 7th. This was never about that. This was about trying to create an excuse to murder and kill and clear the land for resource purposes, for real estate purposes, and to expand the Zionist state of Israel so that they can have more control over West Asia. That's all it's about. This was never about Judaism. This was never about Islam. Never about Christianity. The religion has nothing to do with it. It is all about colonial rule. Basically doing to the Palestinians what European illegals did to this land. And so people need to realize that that's what this is about. Because a lot of times people are going to sit here in hand wring, like Matt Taibbi said, well, this is a complicated issue. No, it's not, Matt. It's not a complicated issue. In fact, it never was a complicated issue. People who say that it's a complicated issue, it's a cop-out. It's quite clear. Those of us who live or exist in marginalized groups, it's not that simple. It's not that complex. It's actually quite simple. The problem is you get a lot of people who say, well, it's kind of complex. I can't really have an opinion on it. No. Don't do that. It is not a complicated opinion. It's just you refuse to have an opinion on it because you don't want to make Zionists mad. You don't want to hurt Zionist feelings. Let's be real. And some people who called me their friend in the past, who rejected me, they're doing it for the same reasons, because they care about the feelings of Zionists over the lives of Palestinians, over the lives of people in Gaza. What matters more, life or feelings? Let's get into this too, because I wanted to make sure I got this here. Here's just some of the press conference that they held in Tunis, in the country of Tunisia, in response to their flotilla being drone struck in Tunisian, off the coast of Tunisia. Let's go.
My name is Miguel Duarte. I'm a Portuguese citizen. Last night, I was on the deck of Family Madeira, one of the ships that composes the global Sumud Flotilla. I was on the deck, on the back part of the ship, and I heard a drone. I came out of the cover of the deck to see a drone hovering about 3 or 4 meters above my head. Called my fellow crew members. 2 of us stood there with the drone exactly 3 or 4 meters above our heads. Then we saw the drone move to the forward part of the deck. It stood a few seconds on top of a bunch of life jackets and then dropped a bomb. The bomb exploded and there was a big flame. There was a fire on board immediately. We picked up the fire extinguishers. We were able to fight the fire successfully and everybody was safe, fortunately. This was a shameful attack and we will not be deterred. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
So as we wait for the next person to speak, this has been...
First of all, I would like to thank all of you for coming here on this moment. And I would like to say thank you to the Tunisian people and to the Tunisian government for all of the support to the global Sumud Flotilla. The way that you received us here, the kindness, the love, and the solidarity that you have for the Palestinian people is an example to the entire world. Thank you so much for that. Second, the illegal siege over Gaza exists for 18 years. For 17 years, there are attempts to break this illegal siege. During these 17 years, 37 other boats have either been intercepted or attacked. This is boat number 38 that suffered from an attack. So it's very important that we understand that whenever people ask, will a mission like ours continue? We never forget the reason why we are here. We are not here for us. we are not the story. The story is the Palestinian people in Gaza who have been suffering for 8 decades of genocide and ethnic cleansing that structured itself into an apartheid colonial state and which is led by a racist and supremacist ideology called Zionism. What happened last night just shows to the world who are we dealing with. Who is interested in stopping humanitarian aid to get to starving children in Gaza? Who has been assassinating health workers, United Nations workers, civil defense workers, journalists like you? Who has been committing all of these war crimes? And the reason why we keep on sailing is because the reason that demands a mission like ours to exist, they are not only there, but they are getting worse with the full invasion of Gaza City, the last stage of the ethnic cleansing in Gaza. So whenever someone sees something that can happen to our mission, we know that is a high-risk mission, but it's nothing compared to the risk that the Palestinian people go through every single day in Gaza. So not only we'll continue our mission, we keep on going, but since that happened, thousands and thousands of people are now volunteering again to join our mission because they know how important it is not to live in a world where there are people who think that they own everything, that they can starve children to death, that they can bomb hospitals, shelters, schools, homes, residential areas, and people will do nothing. It's very important that they understand. They have the drones, they have the violence, they have the weapons. We have everything else. We have history on our side that shows that whenever a people is living through colonization and they mobilize and they bring the world together in solidarity, they cannot be deterred. They cannot be defeated. So we stand together, steadfast, as we learn from the Palestinian people, continue our mission that is in the heart and in the mind of a planet of 8 billion people that knows that whenever there's a siege, whenever there are people being starved, we need to keep on going. The Palestinian people never give up, neither will we. We continue our mission to break the siege, to create a humanitarian corridor, and we know we have the world together with us. We know we have international law with us because International Court of Justice provisional rulings prohibit any nation from hindering humanitarian aid to get to Gaza. So that's why we continue doing what is right, not only for us, but what is right in all humanity's heart. This is a task for humanity to accomplish, and we are just part of that. So one last message for the world. We need to rise up. We need to mobilize in demonstrations, in boycotting, breaking the media blockade, breaking the boycott of the big techs on social media. We need to disrupt the arms factories and the mechanisms of the genocide. We need to all be together in this historical task of our generation. Once again, we thank the Tunisian government and most of all the Tunisian people for the warm welcome here. We continue our mission. Thank you so much.
So there was a lot more people who spoke at that press conference, and really the sentiments are felt throughout that this will continue. And I do have a bit of good news for people as well for this particular story, because I think it's important that, you know, we let people know exactly what's going on. And here is a message from one of the people on the Sumud Flotilla. And he gave a message on Twitter a couple hours ago. So he said, "We're back on our boat, baby." So they are back. They are continuing on their journey to Gaza. They're not stopping. They got a roadblock or they got a speed bump. They fixed, they regrouped, and now they're continuing on. Because people are still being starved. People are still in pain. You literally have people that are undergoing surgery without anesthesia, burn victims, people who have suffocation, people who are in need of antibiotics, things like that. Like, there's literally people who, I don't want to get gruesome, but it is horrific. It's like a horror film. Some of the things that have been described to me. Horror film. And so, and you've seen the footage, what's going on there. And so I'm happy that they are able to continue in their trek to deliver this humanitarian aid. One thing, though, is very apparent, that no matter what the West, especially the leaders in the West, say, their actions speak louder than their words, and their actions show that they are monsters. So here is U.S. Press Secretary speaking about what President Trump has said.
The president told that to the Emir and the Prime Minister of Qatar, and the president also overstressed the importance of peace in the region in his conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu as well. And Prime Minister Netanyahu told President Trump he wants peace and he wants it quickly. That's what the president expects to happen.
So he wants peace and he wants it quickly, and yet a humanitarian vessel with some American citizens on board was just drone bombed. And now, as we can see, there has actually been recent developments where Qatar, the country of Qatar, has been bombed by Israel. And that's a breaking news story that has just come out over the last few hours. And so just want to cover this really quick, just so that people know what's going on in conjunction with what just happened. So let me go here. Let's see here. Yes. And make no mistake, Trump is not a peace president at all.
Of Qatar. Otherwise, the Qatari diplomacy.
Sorry. So it says Hamas leaders survive Israeli attack on Qatar's Doha. 6 others were killed. So it says the Israeli army says it carried out an assassination attempt on top Hamas leaders in Qatar's capital, Doha, where multiple explosions have been heard. Hamas confirms that its leadership survived the attack, while 6 others, including Qatari security officer, were killed. It says the strike could further Israel's status as a pariah with Gulf states. Andreas Krieg, a senior lecturer at King's College in London, has said that Israel's attacks on Qatar could have long-term consequences for its relations with Gulf states. If this comes to be true, then that their Hamas leadership has survived, then what we're seeing is a tactical disaster. Israel has certainly gambled and it took a massive risk. And if they were unsuccessful with taking that risk, it comes with a massive cost. The primary cost is strategic and diplomatic. I think normalization with Saudi Arabia was dead anyway, but I think the direct attack by Israeli on the GCC countries will also put into question the Abraham Accords and the entire normalization track that Trump has supported since 2020. It certainly puts to bed any normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and it will increase the fear within the Gulf states of Israel as a pariah state, which now reigns very similar to the pariah status of Iran. And so this is the Qatari Prime Minister calls the Israeli attack a state terrorism. So Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani says that the Israeli strikes on Doha can only be interpreted as state terrorism. So this recently just happened. But the crazy part about it is that when Iran decided to send missiles to Israel, Qatar intercepted those missiles. But then Israel sends missiles into Qatar, and Qatar doesn't do anything about it. And this reminds me of the conversation. I think, was it Ben Norton? Might have been Ben Norton or Danny Haifong that was saying it. But a lot of these countries in the Gulf states and in West Asia, they play both sides. Like Turkey plays both sides. Saudi Arabia, their solidarity with Gaza and with Palestine is very surface level, and it's almost like we're going to write it. It's almost like the energy of we're going to write a strongly worded letter to the West, but they're not actually about that life, right? So Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, some of these countries, they don't really have the intestinal fortitude to really tell Israel where they can shove it and show them how, right? Besides Yemen and Iran, everybody else is kind of like, I don't know, including Qatar, which also owns Al Jazeera, by the way. So the problem is that now you have all these issues that are happening. You have the Sumud Flotilla that got drone bombed, which people are trying to give humanitarian aid to Israel. You have Palestinian resistance leaders in Qatar. And then Israel decides to send bombs to Qatar in order to get them. And it's like, if you guys know exactly where they are, you guys know which building they're in. That means that whenever they bomb people in Gaza, that means that they knew there were children in there. They knew that there were innocent people in there. Military technology is so advanced. They could be in a drone, thousands of feet up. And they can see, you can put a penny on your foot and they'll be able to see the penny. They'll be able to even read the penny. That's how advanced their technology is. And you mean to tell me that you're just indiscriminate bombing because you guys don't know who's, in that building? No, they know. They just don't care. And also, I'm going to make this statement here, because I made it before, but I think I'll make it again. When we talk about what's going on in Palestine, we put a lot of emphasis on the lives of women and children. Oh my God, they're murdering women and children. Let's not forget the Palestinian men that are also being murdered. And the resistance fighters. Let's not forget them. Number one, there's no such thing as a perfect victim. But they also have their right to resist occupation by any means necessary. Let's clear that away. And the Palestinian men that we typically, we don't really want to touch, even though they lose their lives, these are fathers, grandfathers, uncles, sons, brothers. Their lives matter too. A life of a child and a life of an adult are equal. The life of a man and the life of a woman are equal. A life is precious no matter the gender, no matter the age. Let's pin that there. Let's pin that there. Because the thing is, like, everybody wants to go, oh my God, the women and children. Yes, the women and children are very important, but the men are just as important. All the lives are just as important. And we got to make sure we make that, we demarcate that. We let people know. People want to try to say, well, they're terrorists. I'm sorry, but who's on whose land? Who's carrying out a genocide? What was it? Over 250,000 people that were ethnically cleansed and displaced back in 1948? And continuously, year after year, when Israel mows the lawn, are we talking about that? I implore everybody to really do your research, especially when it comes to what's been going on. Because this is what a 76, almost 77-year illegal occupation that has been going on. That people suddenly think that happened on October 7th, 2023. Like, no, get the hell out of here. You got to look at history to know exactly how it got to that point. And now you have these countries that are doing all this. You have, Israel doing this to Qatar. And Qatar somehow is, not really fighting back. Let's take a look at this. This is from Double Down News. It says today Israel bombed Doha in Qatar. Yesterday, Israel bombed the flotilla in Tunisia. Last week, Israel murdered the prime minister of Yemen. Last few months, Israel bombed Iran, Lebanon, and Syria. Tell me, what country on earth could get away with that? Then ask yourself why. I mean, they're not wrong. Constantly doing these things. I want to share this as well. This is my sister Savvy Savs. Right here. Great question. Israel strikes Hamas leadership in Qatar. If Israel knows exactly where Hamas leadership was in Qatar, then they know there are children in those buildings and they are killing in Gaza. Also, is Qatar going to sit back and not say anything about Israel striking their country? And she shows the headline, Israel strikes Hamas leadership in Qatar. The Israeli Defense Forces and Shin Bet intelligence agencies said that they had carried out a precise strike targeting senior Hamas leadership. She says, I am 100% convinced this so-called negotiation was a trap organized by the U.S. government. And there's one more thing I want to share. Well, two more, actually. Here's Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone. Because apparently the U.S. actually knew about it beforehand. It says 2 days ago, Trump issued a short proposal in warning designed to compel Hamas exiled leadership to gather in Doha. Hamas said at the time it looks like Trump's proposal was written by the Israelis. When Hamas met today in Doha, U.S. air defenses in Qatar stood down. U.S. air defenses in Qatar stood down. Israeli officials have told the Jerusalem Post that the U.S. greenlit the decapitation strike. The negotiations have reached their death knell as Israel moves towards its final solution in Gaza, and the Trump administration has once again showing its true face as a subsidiary of the Zionist regime. A lawless axis of messianic genocidal gangsterism spans seamlessly from Tel Aviv to Washington. And he shares this. Trump issues last warning to Hamas to accept Gaza hostage deal. Says the Israelis have accepted my terms. It's time for Hamas to accept as well. And then it says exclusive to drop site news, the 100-word proposal Trump sent to Hamas. It looks like it was written by the Israelis. Hamas official told drop site news. And then it says Israeli officials told the Post that the U.S. knew about the attack beforehand and gave it the green light. The U.S. Embassy in Doha has issued a shelter-in-place order for all U.S. citizens. So they knew. It wasn't a surprise. And this is all a part of the settler colonial project that is the United States and Israel. So keep your eye on what's going on with the Sumud Flotilla. In fact, let me put the Twitter for the Sumud Flotilla in the chat so you guys can follow that. I think it is great that you guys keep track of that, because as things continue, as these issues continue, it is going to get very intense over the next few days. Make sure I get it here. Okay. You see, oop, it's not what I wanted. I'll just copy it from here. All right, so then you guys have that there. And I'll make sure to also put it in the description below too for the clip. Keep your eyes on them and keep your eyes on what's happening in Gaza. And please do not, whatever you do not stop talking about what's going on in Palestine. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Give a like to the stream. Thank you so much. And what are your thoughts on exactly this event that has just happened as far as the flotilla? And let me ask you this. Do you think that how many more people do you think that this will inspire to do similar flotillas till there's basically an armada of humanitarian aid? How soon do you think that will happen? Because something to me tells me that when Greta Thunberg did the first one, that got a lot of attention. Then when the Handala, which Christian Smalls was a part of, that got a huge amount of attention, especially since Christian Smalls was beat by the IOF forces. And now they have a drone strike on the Sumud Flotilla, which is garnering a whole lot more eyes on it. So now this is increasing the amount of people that are fighting against Israel as humanitarian aid workers. How many more people do you think that this will inspire to do the same thing and to get humanitarian aid out to Gaza? I'm very curious about this, because I want to know your thoughts, because I honestly think that it might spike significantly by about a third. Like about 30% more people will start going, you know what? I'm going to join the flotilla and I'm going to go. And I cheer it on, because those people, they need humanitarian aid, and the arms need to be stopped, and the occupation needs to end yesterday. So, all right, let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants. Looks like we're good with that. All right, perfect. I'm going to check to see if I have any gift subs on Kick. All right. No gift subs yet. But if you guys would like to, you guys can always join my Kick channel. I'm trying to reach 500 subs by the end of the year. Don't know if that'll happen. I'll say probably by spring. By spring, I would like to do that. If I can reach 500 subs by March, I think that's more of a reasonable goal there. So yeah. Now let's go into this chat here. All right. Jacqueline says, was that murderous genocidal state responsible for one more drone attacks on the Humanitarian aid flotilla? Absolutely. Holly Horn says, Spain said no more arms to Gaza. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I know, yes, they were poisoning the food. They were putting it in the dirt and harmful things, very harmful things to the people. Let me see. Eid says the Gaza Humanitarian Fund is bait for murder. Palestinians spend more calories getting there than they receive in food. And the food needs water or fuel to make it. It's cruelty, not aid. Yeah, I mean, how are you going to make bread without heat? And you need either electricity or gas to make it. Like how much wood is there to be able to make a fire? Right? You need that in order to be able to make heat, in order to be able to make bread. And they don't have that. It's crazy. It's insulting and horrific. Sean says Israel needs to stop relying on our tax dollars and pay for their own ish. I fully agree. Like, here's the thing. Our money, and this is why it is so important for us to keep talking about this, because there was a discussion between Jamal Thomas and Danny Highfong the other day that I was listening to, and one of the things I think is very apparent is that yes, Americans are very self-interested in our own issues, and so when it comes to what we put our weight behind, it is because we don't want it to affect us negatively. Unfortunately, we have to explain it in that way, because even if we just go the moral argument, it's like, well, it's not hurting us. And a lot of times we'll go, oh man, that's so sad, that's so bad. Thoughts and prayers, and then we move about our day. So we kind of have to do it in a more self-preservation, self-interest way. We have to go through that narrative in order to make an impact and go, your federal dollars or your tax dollars, if you feel, about modern monetary theory, whatever, but your money, because your money is going to murder and commit a Holocaust. It's your money for healthcare. It's your money for reparations. It's your money for education. It's your money for roads, bridges, all these things. It is your money that's going to this genocidal state. How do you feel about that when you're suffering as well? You have to angle it like that in order to really get people going, wait a minute. That's what we're going to us, not to them. Because sometimes you really want to go the moral route, but sometimes, the what can it do for me or what's in it for me is really indicative of what we as Americans, and we in the West, how we feel. it's like we can't even do the moral argument, because the moral argument is just like, all right, but it's not harming us, unfortunately. And so, that's unfortunate that a lot of us feel that way, but you have to bring the material into it. And so that's really the crux of how it is here in the United States. But if the United States stopped giving funds to Israel, I'd say at the very least, the project of Israel will be done in 5 years. I give it a max of between 10 and 15 years. Israel will not be able to survive. And I'm probably being very kind in my estimate by that. It might be between 6 and 7 years. Hey, Travelers Wolf says, Care Bear. Oh, thank you very much. So he says the normalization of drone warfare against civilians happened under the Obama administration. Absolutely. In fact, he drone bombed not just people who we thought were combatants, but also civilians as well as children. Travelers Wolf says, Todd Higgy says, has a video of strike on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. Let me see if I can go with anybody who I haven't stopped that yet. Okay. Jamie says, Jacqueline, this boat is not humanitarian aid. If they wanted to send help, they could do as Morocco did, have aid sent by plane. Instead, Algerians use this boat to draw attention. First of all, they would probably use anti-air missiles. And so it's probably better to go by boat. It's probably more feasible for them to do it by boat. And like Greg Stoker said, they do not have government support to be able to do this. So therefore, they have to do it by themselves. And so it's better for them to send it by boat. Also, I mean, how are they going to get a plane that big in the air with all those supplies? It's probably easier to do it by boat to carry more supplies, because you just have to float it across the water. You know what I mean? It's just like, for instance, like, why don't we, send, why don't we have our shipping containers flown by plane? Well, because the logistics is a lot more difficult. It's easier to send it en masse by boat because you can put on more and float it across the ocean. So, and then you also don't have the surface to air missiles, aimed at you. So, I mean, that's why. And here's the thing. Let's make the point, okay? This genocide shouldn't be happening anyway, and they're doing as much humanitarian aid as they possibly can with what they have. And do you know how much money it costs to be able to either buy a plane or rent a plane in order to be able to do that? Like, come on, bro. Let's not be a dick about this. And the thing is, they're doing so much more than the rest of us. Some of us are just sitting here, twiddling our thumbs, complaining about what they're doing. It's like, all right, fine. You know what? You get that plane. You go ahead and get that plane, and you fill it with humanitarian aid, and you fly your ass over there and try to drop humanitarian aid off with a parachute. You do that. You do that. You try to do that and let me know how it goes. And if you're successful, I will have you on this program to be able to talk about it. But until then what are you doing by complaining to me on my chat? You know what I mean? It's like, well, they're not doing it good enough. Okay, then you do it. You do it. It's crazy because it's just like when people try to feed other people and they're doing the best that they can with what they got, and it's like, well, you're not doing it good enough. And I'm like, then you get out here and you start feeding people. You start doing mutual aid. Who does mutual aid? I do mutual aid in these streets. But then you got people going, oh, you're not doing it good enough. All right, then show me how to do it better. Show me. Don't tell me. Show me your actions. My goodness. And be like, well, like Morocco did. Was it done by the Moroccan government, or was it done by people in Morocco? And also, what are the resources that they had in order to be able to do such a thing? And then you can say, oh, well, it went swimmingly for them. Okay, that's the exception, not the rule. How many flotillas have went there? My goodness. Oh, man. KMH says also sailing in the water is not the same as flying in the sky. You can't fly as freely as you can sail. Thank you. Travelers Bull says the cheapest form of bulk travel. Bingo. You can do a whole lot more humanitarian aid than just dropping stuff out of the sky. Let's go to this. Okay. Let me go here. I tell you, man, everybody want to be a critic until it's time for them to actually do some shit. Thank you very much for this. He shares Charlie Mack's tweet. Shout out to Charlie Mack, by the way. Charlie Mack is also part of the Boston chapter for RBN Orlando. Charlie Mack says, my awesome friend Shelly at Hot Tomato Soup did something pretty amazing. She not only called out Hickenlooper, but got him to publicly admit he is aiding a genocide of the Palestinians, using those terms and everything. Check out this badass article. Oh, interesting. I'm gonna have to read that later. Let me bookmark that. Thank you very much for that. I just got off the phone with Shelly, who is in the center of this article, as she was informing me how she got former governor, current U.S. Senator Hickenlooper to admit to the genocide. In fact, while I'm here, let me link the article in the chat too, so that she can get some people to read it. Okay. That's great. I mean, it's great that people are admitting it. My thing is, I want people to do something about it. Like, I'm sick and tired of these people just, oh, well, okay, it's a genocide. It's like, no, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Let me see. Let me see. where's the share? It doesn't have a link one. It's okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. Okay. And then let me go back to what Roger was saying. He says, understand in regards to Matt and CBS, only if you are Generation X or older, you would understand the connection. But I grew up watching Matthew's dad, Mike, deliver the local news on CBS News back in the 80s and maybe in the 90s. So there's some type of hookup or whatever that happened. For all we know, Matthew probably got buried the job at CBS because of his connections with his dad working there. Interesting information, Roger. I mean, that could be. At the same time, I'll be real with you. I mean, I have no love for legacy media, for corporate media. And I would think that Matt Taibbi shouldn't either, being that he's an investigative journalist and seeing how they're always complicit in a lot of the BS that's happening, especially in regards to, convincing people of, like, for instance, weapons of mass destruction, standing behind the empire when it comes to war, things like that. But what do I know? All right, so let's continue on to the next one. So this is an article that I want to get into because this one was crazy. Oh my goodness. So of course, we talked about a drone strike that happened on the flotilla. And we're happy that all the people survived. And now they're continuing on their trek to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. But now we're going to move next to a mission that resulted in the deaths of fishermen in North Korea. So U.S. Botched mission in North Korea, we're going to be getting into this here. North Korean civilians murdered. So this is a story that came out a couple days ago that I think that a lot of people should be talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not. And this is a story that came out in the New York Times that I think really just exposes the United States and not only how imperialist they are, but also it just exposes them for how incompetent they can be as well. Whenever you think about North Korea, a lot of people have this preconceived notion that North Korea is some terrorist regime, some kingdom where they lock people out and that they cause nothing but harm to their people within their borders. Not realizing that North Korea is actually a democracy. If you guys would like to learn a little bit more about North Korea, I actually have interviewed, some people who have a lot of knowledge about North Korea. And I will link their interviews in the description down below. If you guys want to learn some more details about North Korea that really they don't teach you or you don't really learn as much here in the United States. But something happened in the past that was classified but was then declassified that we had no idea about. And this could have led to a war with North Korea. And the person who put us at risk, Donald John Trump himself, Mr. Peace President. You mean the same one that turned it from the Department of Defense to the Department of War once again? Yeah, that guy. So I want to share this as well because this is an explosive story that a lot of people should know about, and I hope that more people read about. How a top secret SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea fell apart. So let's get into this. It says the 2019 operation, greenlit by President Trump, saw a strategic edge. It left unarmed North Koreans dead. It said unarmed North Koreans. First of all, here's the problem. Here's the problem with corporate media here in the West. It says it left unarmed North Koreans dead. North Korean civilians, they weren't combatants. They weren't in the military that we know of. These were fishermen. Fishermen. And they were murdered by the United States. So this is one of the reasons why media literacy is so important, especially here in the West, because they'll try to manufacture your consent to make you think that North Korea is some immensely oppressive regime, when in reality, the oppressive regime is the one that's going to other countries to try to do a covert operation within their borders and then kills their civilians. That's an oppressive regime. But the New York Times is going to tell you that. Let's continue on. Let's get into this article. It says a group of Navy SEALs emerged from the ink black ocean on a winter night in early 2019 and crept to a rocky shore in North Korea, where they were on a top secret mission so complex and consequential that everything had to go exactly right. So here's the objective. The objective was to plant an electronic device that would let the United States intercept communications of North Korea's reclusive leader, Kim Jong-un, amid high-level nuclear talks with President Trump. I love how they call him a reclusive leader. To be honest with you, Kim Jong-un isn't reclusive. It's that the United States wants to keep North Korea cut off from the rest of the world because they don't want people to see that North Korea isn't some oppressive government. The DPRK isn't some oppressive government that they've been touting. Because if you were to go to North Korea, you would see some advancement. You would see a lot of things that are modern. You would see that there's no homelessness. You would see that people have housing. You would see that people have food. You would see that people have free healthcare. You would see a socialist government that is actually working for the workers. And so they don't want you to see that, because if you were to see that, then you would question your own government. And even in our media, which Noam Chomsky coined the phrase manufacturing consent. Our consent is manufactured in order to make it so that we are okay with oppressing a nation. Even though my question is, what has North Korea done to us? Name me bases around the world that are owned by North Korea that are a threat to the national security of different countries. I'll wait. Name one attack in even a Western nation that North Korea has conducted in order to expand its borders, in order to colonize or grow its empire. I'll wait. Did you know that North Koreans actually travel outside of North Korea? They go to the countries that will allow them to come in. they would travel here if we allowed it. And they would let us come in if we allowed it. But the United States doesn't want people to go there because the United States goes, if you go there, then you could be turned on by the way the people are treated there as workers. Let's continue on. Says the mission had the potential to provide the United States with a stream of valuable intelligence, but it meant putting American commandos on North Korean soil, a move that, if detected, not only could sink negotiations, but also could lead to a hostage crisis or an escalating conflict with a nuclear-armed foe. So yes, North Korea is a nuclear-armed nation. It was so risky that it required the president's direct approval. For the operation, the military chose SEAL Team 6's Red Squadron, the same unit that killed Osama bin Laden. The SEALs rehearsed for months, aware that every move needed to be perfect. But when they reached what they thought was a deserted shore that night, wearing black wetsuits and night vision goggles, the mission swiftly unraveled. A North Korean boat appeared out of the dark. Flashlights from the boat swept over the water. Fearing they had been spotted, the SEALs opened fire. Within seconds, everyone on the North Korean boat was dead. The SEALs retreated into the sea without planting or listening evidence. The 2019 operation was never been publicly acknowledged or even hinted at by the United States or North Korea. The details remain classified and are being reported here for the first time. The Trump administration did not notify key members of Congress who oversee intelligence operations before or after the mission. The lack of notification may have violated the law. Of course, the White House declined to comment, said this account is based on interviews with 24 people, including civilian government officials, members of the first Trump administration, and current former military personnel with knowledge of the mission. All of them spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the mission's classified status. So, one of the things I want to bring attention to was the identity of the North Koreans that were murdered, because I want to make mention that this is a paywalled article. Of course, I didn't pay for nothing. But this is a paywalled article. And so if you just read the first few lines, you would think, oh, well, these must be North Korean soldiers on patrol. No, they're not. Okay, so compromise and escape. It says, if the SEALs were unsure whether the mission had been compromised before they fired, they had no doubt afterward. The plan required SEALs to abort immediately if they encountered anyone. North Korean security forces could be coming. There was no time to plant the device. The shore team swam to the boat to make sure that all the North Koreans were dead. They found no guns or uniforms. Evidence suggested that the crew, which people briefed on the mission said number 2 or 3 people, have been civilians diving for shellfish. All were dead, including the man in the water. And here it gets even worse. Officials familiar with the mission said the SEALs pulled the bodies into the water to hide them from the North Korean authorities. One added that the SEALs punctured the boat crew's lungs with knives to make sure their bodies would sink. So they hid the evidence. They murdered innocent civilians, and then they hid the evidence because they knew they were wrong. That's what our government does. All because they want to listen in on a government that is not a direct threat, not a material threat to the United States. What threat is the DPRK to the United States? What threat are they? Do they have military bases surrounding us? Are they currently trying to come to war with our allies. And some people, they say, well, they're trying to go to war with South Korea. No, they're not. No, they're not. If they wanted to go to war with South Korea, oh, they would have went. And technically, they still are in a conflict with South Korea, but right now it's not a truce, but it's like it's a long ceasefire, very long. But the North Koreans, they actually do not want to hurt the South Koreans because literally that's their family, that's their people. They don't actually want to. This is why they're keeping a very light hand on the situation. And why does North Korea have nukes? Because they watched what the United States did in Libya. They watched the United States, what they did to Muammar Gaddafi. Because Muammar Gaddafi didn't have a nuke, so guess what? The United States did. They had him murdered. Now, Libya has one of the largest open-air prisons, slave markets in the world. They're literally selling slaves because of what the United States did, because they destabilized North Korea. They destabilized Libya. And North Korea does not want the same thing to happen to them. They do not want their country to be destabilized, especially in a country where they have free healthcare, they have no homelessness. If they even do have people who are unhoused, it's so extremely small, it's negligible. Free education, and the country is modern. And people don't want to tell you about it because you have some of these defectors that come here because they just want to get rich. And they'll tell you whatever bogus, crazy story that they can about, oh, well, we had to defect because because it's so horrible. Everybody has to wear the same haircut as Kim Jong-un, which is absolutely patently false. Or, oh, they have to push the trains by hand. The most outlandish and wildest claims. And look, if they lied to you about Iran, if they lied to you about Iraq, if they lied to you about Afghanistan, if they lied to you about Somalia, if they lied to you about Chile, if they lied to you about Colombia, if they lied to you about Haiti, if they lied to you about Russia, if they lied to you about China, if they lied to you about South Africa, if they lied to you about Palestine, if they lied to you about all these different countries, so on and so forth, what makes you think they're actually telling the truth about North Korea? They've done it over and over and over and over again. And that's the crazy part. They don't want you to know what actually is going on over there. Because if you did, then you might be tempted to want to change your government that favors workers here. And that's the problem that they have. They don't want you or anybody else to change the system for the benefit of the workers. And that's the problem. And what's going to happen is once people start to really find out, and they're finding out quick because the internet is very powerful and it reaches far ways. A lot of people are going to find out, well, we could have these things. We could have nice things, but they actually don't want us to. And by they, I mean the parasite class. Parasite class doesn't want people to have nice things. So I'm going to share, there was a video that came out that I want to share because a lot of people had saw this and they didn't know. And I'm sure that more people who are watching this stream probably didn't know. And I should have had it queued up, but I didn't think about it until now. But make sure I have this here. But what's happened in DPRK over really the last few years, is nothing short of amazing at, despite the sanctions and blockades that have been happening. I might have to search for it myself. I know I retweeted it to see here. Wow, I'm going back really far. I really want to share this because let me see. All right, so let me see. I'm sorry. I could have swore I had it queued up. But, and also another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that North Korea is actually, they stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine. And so a lot of people don't know that as well. And they think that that it's a hermit kingdom, when in reality they actually have a lot of solidarity with many oppressed people from around the world. So let me see here. I'll share this really quick first. All right, so this isn't exactly what I was looking for, but here it says what the Western media doesn't show you of North Korea.
Your lips were soft like winter. In your passion, I was lost.
I'm going to mute the song because I'm not sure if it's copyright. But if you take a look, does that look like a horribly oppressive area? And people will say, well, you're just picking and choosing. But think about the United States, right? And I'm willing to bet that there's a lot less areas that are destitute than they are here. That's destitute over there than they are here. Let me see. This is what I wanted to show you. I see. Okay, so this, I found it. But this is actually a subway system in North Korea. A lot of people think, oh, well, North Korea, they're not modern. North Korea said, okay, hold my beer.
I want to take you to North Korea next. It's modernizing several key train stations in the capital. It is part of efforts to refresh Pyongyang's infrastructure. The updated designs aim to improve daily commutes and present a more modern image of the city.
Pyongyang's skyline is one that's rarely seen by anyone outside the country. New suburbs full of skyscrapers have sprung up in recent years. And underground, the city is also undergoing a makeover. At Yongwang Station, long escalators descend into a revamped space.
This is North Korea. That's North Korea. Think about the L train or the subway stations in places like Boston, LA, New York, Chicago. Think about them. Let's think about them right quick. I've been in the subway system in Philadelphia as well as in New York. I'm gonna tell you, when I've only been to New York one time, but when I went into the subway, you know what the first thing that hit me was? The smell of piss, the smell of urine wafted out the air as soon as I got down there. And this is North Korea. Let's continue.
Subway system was built starting in the 1960s, going into operation in the 1970s. Now, gone are the dim walls and heavy decor. In their place, lighter colors, sleek tiling, and electronic display panels.
오늘 변천된 평양의 모습은 새로울 듯한 고리들뿐 아니라 우리 지하철도를 통해서도 체감할 수 있습니다. 지하철도 역사들은 수도 시민들의 교통상 편의를 보장하면서도 매 역들마다 주제별 특성에 맞게 건축과 장식, 조명을 비롯한 모든 것이 조형 예술화되었습니다.
Yonggwang is one of several stops that have received a facelift. The Pyongyang Metro has just 2 lines and 16 stations, but it is a daily tool for local commuters, not a showpiece for tourists.
저는 버란봉역을 자주 이용하곤 합니다. 버란봉역의 사진 작품들을 볼 때마다 마음이 즐거워지곤 합니다.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, foreign tourists were allowed access to the entire system. That access is now restricted. Tour groups remained locked out. Foreign residents in Pyongyang can, however, use the metro. But despite years of speculation, there are no signs of expansion. The subway lines do not reach Pyongyang's newer suburbs. These areas, filled with high-rise blocks, remained outside the network's reach. Still, the metro system remains a rare glimpse into the possibilities for North Korea's urban infrastructure. And for many who ride it daily, it is a reflection of the changing times above.
And so the United States has conducted this and resulted in the deaths of North Korean civilians. And have they apologized? They don't even want to talk about it. And this was Donald Trump, by the way. It wasn't Joe Biden. Almost got us into a war with North Korea, all because they wanted to intercept communications within the country. And meanwhile, all this was happening, Donald Trump was smiling in Kim Jong-un's face and meeting and trying to normalize relations, when in reality, he wasn't trying to normalize relations. He was doing the exact same thing that all the other presidents have done. And so this mission was botched. And they talk about how the mission was botched. From the outset, you know, they had these human submarines that, you know, take a few of the Navy SEALs at a time, and then one overshot its stop point, and then they had to circle back to go back to a stop point. And then they said, well, how in the world, if they carried out this mission, how in the world did they not know that there was a fishing boat nearby? And the problem was that the fishing boat, this was in the winter and it was cold, and they figured there wouldn't really be anybody out there in the cold, in the winter, you know, in the early hours of the morning. And so instead, there were fishermen, but the fishermen were wearing black. They were wearing black swimsuits, diving suits, because they were diving for shellfish. And number two, because they had been in that water, they were cold from the water. So therefore, the heat vision couldn't detect them. And so, and then on top of it, because they were in shallow water, one of the doors was open to the mini sub, and the light was showing. And there was, and then the wake from the water from the propellers because the waters were calm. And so that alerted the fishermen. And so they put out their flashlights and they were looking in the water to see if there was something there. And you know what happened? The SEAL team, guess what? They aimed their guns at them and they shot them dead. Because the mission was compromised. And they couldn't have any witnesses. And so this is what happened. And this is what our government did. And that could be seen as an act of aggression, an act of terrorism, because it was a mass shooting done by our military. And they said in the rules of engagement, what they did was appropriate. Those weren't military members. Those weren't combatants. They were fishermen. And that's what our government did. That's what Donald Trump approved of. So when people come to me and go, oh, well, Donald Trump is a peace president. No, he's not. And in fact, he's allowed the government of Israel to bomb a building in Qatar. He keeps allowing the sale and shipping of arms to Israel. The missiles that were sent to bomb Iran. There is no peace president. They don't exist. And so for anybody that still thinks that Donald Trump is a peace president, I got a big, beautiful, diamond-encrusted bridge over an active volcano to sell you. Realize that the United States consistently wants to go after other nations because on behalf of the parasite class, they're just trying to own the world. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it very much. Let's go into to see if we have any Rumble rants and if we have any gift subs as well. And if you guys would like to, you guys can also join my Substack. I'm sorry, not Substack. But my Rumble, and you guys can subscribe there. I'm also trying to get that to 500 subs. I'll try to get that to 500 subs by now. To get it to 500 subs on Rumble by December, that's actually doable because I'm already at 300 subs. So if you guys want to do that. But as for Kick, I would definitely like to have more subs on Kick. If you guys like to, you guys can join Kick. Because I'm trying to expand my platform because I don't trust YouTube like that, man. YouTube can be stupid sometimes with some stuff. Okay. Let's go into, let me check to see if we have any gifted subs on Kick. I got so many people saying, trying to do some type of proposal on Kick. My goodness. All right. Let's go to the regular chat here. Jaybefaunt here. Good to see you, pal. Oh, by the way, how did the block party go? Let me know. I'm actually curious. Let me know how it went. It says, when I think of Korea, I think of MASH, the TV show. Yeah, that was based on what was happening during the Korean War. My grandfather actually fought in the Korean War. Not something I'm proud of, though, but he did. Thank you very much. Travelers Wolf says, so civilians then. Yep, bingo. Civilians. Oh, let me while I'm at it, let me link you guys the article for this so that you guys have it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the article for this, let me see where I put it. This article, I would like for you guys to have it without the paywall. So I'm gonna give you guys the archived version. And I'll also put that in a link in the description as well below. But here is the archived version of the New York Times article. You ain't got to go through no damn paywall. It's right there for all y'all to read. And share alike. Joey says, 2-year war, but 11-season show. If you combine the 11 seasons into 2 years and think of a mental decline of Hawkeye, it is a huge insight on how a person is ruined by war, in my opinion. Yeah, war ruins the minds of people. And it's kind of funny because some people will be like, oh, man. Okay, I'm about to go into a mini rant. I'm sorry. But you know how some people go, oh, man, we want men to be men again. We want men to be men again. They are romanticizing their fathers and grandfathers who had to fight in wars. And when their grandfathers and grandfathers came back, they romanticized that version of them in their head, even though the romanticized version of their fathers and grandfathers in their head were really just men that were damaged by the ravages of war. That's why some of those men are stoic. That's why some of those men have drug problems. Some of them have drug problems. That's why some of them have certain emotional issues, because they were damaged by the ravages of war. And you want to romanticize that and make men be like that again? Broken? No. We are done with this. It is 2025. If you are in the military, number one, get out. Get out. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 9.9 times out of 10, if you're in the military, it is because the U.S., by means of the parasite class, wants to send you into a conflict in order to be able to exploit people of another country in order for them to have the resources. Go check with the people of Vietnam. Go check with the people who fought in Korea. Go check with the people who fought in Desert Storm. Go check with the people who fought in Afghanistan. Go check with the people who fought in Iraq. Go check with the people who fought in Somalia. Go check with them. Go check with them. And let them tell you exactly what happened. How they were guarding oil fields, guarding poppy fields. Go take a look. Because that's ultimately what it's about. It's about the interests of corporations, not us. So when people go, I want men to be men again, they want the damaged version of their fathers and grandfathers again. That's what it is. And it's crazy because it's all nostalgia, not what's actually good for us. I talked about this on my reading from The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, but that's part of what a lot of it what it is. It's nostalgia because you have this romanticized version in your head, but a lot of you as kids were shielded from the negative sides of it because your mamas and your grandmas and everybody else shielded you from it, from the real negative sides, because they didn't want you to know about it. And some of them became, because of what they've been through, they can become alcoholics, they become drug addicts, some of them become drug addicts, some of them become physically abusive, all types of stuff. And then next thing you know, guess what? You didn't know about it because your grandma, your mom, your aunties and them, they shielded you from that. But guess what? That's what it did to those men. It broke them. And now you have this romanticized version in your head. And then now you want men to be like that again. When in reality, it's just a broken version. Let's continue. Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, Bryce Smith said, "Yo, Nimi Park." Yeah. That clown. Oh my gosh, she has so many wild stories about North Korea. It's crazy. Oh yeah, Travelers Wolf said there are good YouTube videos on travelers who visit North Korea. They're quite informative. It's not a utopia, but as long as you toe the government line, it's so. I mean, we have to toe a government line here. You know. Yeah, Chris says, oh my God. Oh my goodness, that's Pyongyang. What the F? Yep. Pyongyang looks cool. Cowboy Kitty, good to see you in the chat as well. Sean says, been on pause about North Korea for a long while. Hang on. Edward says, I remember how Trump was saying when he was campaigning that he never started any wars under his first term. He didn't end none neither. Oh, Joey says the music is copyright free. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I had to make sure. K-Mac says, JB looking so gorgeous with that haircut. So glad I finally caught you up. Oh, Miss Kate. Thank you so very much. Good to see you. And then Radical Education says, North Korea is a country I really want to visit. You're going to have to take a detour in order to be able to get there because you can't go there directly from the United States because the United States don't allow it. But that's the way it is. All right, so let me check something before we head on. Okay. I think we're good there. Okay. So let's move on to the final one. Oh, Joey says for the video in your Twitter DMs. Hang on. Oh, okay. Oh, look at that. Okay. Okay, hang on. I'll play this real quick. It looks cool. All right, so this is Joey Peltier at the Blake family block party. Ooh, okay. The caption reads, it says, from the Blake family's 5th annual block party on August 31st, words from Justin Blake, Jacob Blake's uncle and the event organizer, alongside Just Becca, a Milwaukee, Wisconsin-based artist performing Strange Fruit. Okay, let's get into it.
Start this off right. This is the 5th annual Jacob Blake's family block party. Hey, friend, make some noise! All right, if y'all can hear our voice raising right fist high in the air. Yesterday was Chairman Fred Day in Chicago. Chairman Fred was a true freedom fighter, so his day is every day. We want to free all our political prisoners where it is. My dear Jeff Ford, Larry Hoover, and many other political prisoners. We have the family of Libertarian here with my sister Gina, brother Joey.
Bonjour everyone, I hope you're having a good time and please remember to drink your water.
Y'all, we got water coming on the way. We have Bianca Austin. We got the Taylor's family here. On the count of three, everybody say, man, they all the way to Louisville. Y'all can do better than that. We love you, sister. Thank God for coming up from Louisville. We got Chicago here representing Midwest Coalition. The brothers and sisters of Free Jack Ford. We got a lot of organizations. We didn't do this year by ourselves. Thank you to SEIU where they at. Where they at? SEIU where they at? Thank you to all my brothers and sisters in Palestine. Thank y'all for being here. Big us. We can, hey, if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there, that's a make thugs we don't know. But we here to free them all. Everybody say free them all! 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 Okay, I'm not begging, cause I'm not afraid to die. Cause I believe, and I'm certain, this is the last chance for change. Oh, yes it is. Get to it, cause we've already decided to take no more change for you. La da da. Oh, is this the way you love me, baby? Yeah. Is this? Put your hands together for me, y'all. Hey, you love me, baby. Yeah. No more.
Wow. Thank you so very much for sharing that, Joey. That was awesome. Thank you. That was beautiful. Wow. I'm going to share that real quick. Let me share that because that was cool. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Let's get into the final story. We got to there's something local we got to talk about. A lot of times we got to get into this because, you know, housing is something that's very close to my heart. And we got to talk about this because, you know what? There's too many people going through this now, especially here in Florida. So let's get to that thumbnail. All right. So, of course, we talked about the drone strike that happened on the Sumud Flotilla. Then we talked about a botched mission that happened in North Korea that Trump approved of, which resulted in the murder of North Korean civilians. But now we're going to be talking about a rent spike in Florida. And what is that? 40%. Oh my gosh. The rent is too damn high. The rent is too damn high, and it is high here in Florida, and it has exploded over the last damn near 4 years. And if you're living in the state of Florida and you feel like you're feeling the squeeze right now, you're not alone and you're not crazy, because this is exactly what's happening as we speak. So let's get into this, because I think that we need to have a come to Jesus moment about this system. And this system is completely unsustainable, and there's a lot that needs to be done in regards to it. So let's go to this here. Florida rent shot up by nearly 40% from 2019 to 2023. Says Florida's strong population growth has collided with limited housing supply, pushing rents beyond what many families can afford. So let's get here. Homelessness among Florida families rose by 28% in the last 3 years, a report from University of Florida found. A 2025 rental market study conducted by the UF Scheinberg Center for Housing Studies found that the rent for multifamily units in Florida rose by 39% between 2019 and 2023 as 1 million households entered the state. Wait 1 minute. Wait a damn minute. 1 million households. That means that some of y'all that came from Massachusetts, Illinois, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, some of y'all came from, my goodness, some of y'all came from Virginia. Like, guess what? It has gotten super expensive. 1 million, not people, households. And I said this, and people didn't take me seriously. I said our population in Florida is exploding. Was I lying? No. This is one of the reasons why we had the whole I-4 Ultimate project. That was what, $26 billion, something north of that? It was billions of dollars just to widen the I-4 corridor that runs east to west here in Florida. That was a bill over somewhere north of $1 billion that we spent just to widen I-4, not to build high-speed public transit, but to build more roads for more cars. And I-4 still gets backed up. It still gets backed up. So has it really fixed the problem? No. No, it still hasn't fixed the problem. Because you need to get those people out of those cars and into high-speed rail. And most people in those cars, they're either one or two people per car. Oh, yeah, sure, we add an express lane, but how many people want to spend money on that express lane? We can barely afford eggs. You think we're going to use that money that we would spend on eggs on the express lane? Please. And so the problem is that now our housing costs have skyrocketed. Let's continue on. It says Florida's strong population growth has collided with limited housing supply, pushing rents beyond what many families can afford. According to that report, an estimated 904,000 renting households earn less than 60% of the median income and pay more than 40% of their income on housing. It says Florida is not any different than most places, and we saw the extreme rise in rents going back to the pandemic days, and things have remained high as production pretty much came to a grinding halt for that period of time. It says that the state added more than 240,000 multifamily units between 2019 and 2023, while median rents rose by almost $500 per month, or 39%, from $1,238 to $1,719, the report found. And these days, if you are looking for an apartment, because trust me, I was doing that last year. If you can find a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment for around $1,200, that's a rundown apartment in the hood. That's what it is now. Go back 10 years, a $1,200 apartment, let's say about 15 years ago, a $1,200 apartment would have been 4 bedrooms. You're looking at about 4 bedrooms. Now, if you get a $1,200 apartment, that's a 1-bedroom apartment in the hood that's run down. Because everybody and their mama moving here. Because we got snowbirds that want to stay here year long. And people go, well, you guys don't have to spend this much because you guys don't have a proper state tax, state income tax. Yeah, we don't have a state income tax, but also the cost of living doesn't make up for it. And we also don't have the services at a commensurate rate that the state should provide. And so we're still doing horribly. Let's continue on here. It says renting households includes at least one employed adult at 79% of units, and households occupied by their owners, 67% are working. We're still not producing as quickly as the need is overall. Nesbitt added that there's a great need for rental options for people making below 80% of the median income. Financially, it's difficult to produce units at that level. And so with the lack of units affordable at that level, the overall lack of supplies, we have high rent costs. And the reduction in that supply is relating to that growth in those that are now becoming homeless. The study found that the largest inflow of residents to the state stretched from St. Johns County to Lee County. Also, there's homelessness on the rise, says the report, using the Department of Housing and Urban Development and Florida Department of Education data estimates some 29,848 individuals in Florida are homeless, 6,049 of whom are unaccompanied youth. 6,049 of whom are unaccompanied youth. Guess who are overrepresented in that amount of youth? LGBTQ youth. Because you got some parents that are ashamed of their kids, that want to kick their kids out because they want them to conform to something that they are not. So here's where identity and class converge. That also happens. These kids become homeless because, well, parents do not want them to be who they naturally are, so they got to get out the house. Even though, who is it really harming? So the report estimates that 41,847 families are doubled up with others or staying in hotels and motels. So remember that story that I talked about? I talked about it on, was it RBN? But I talked about it recently about how 72 families that were living in the Howard Johnson on I Drive got an eviction notice one day after they paid their rent, and now they're out of a house. They're out of not even a house. They're out of a hotel room that they were staying in, that they were living in, and so now some of them may be out on the street. We're talking about families here, and so that's part of that number of people that are living in these hotels and motels. If you're living in a hotel or motel, especially under duress, then guess what? You are homeless because you're living there under duress. You're not living there by free choice. And so therefore, guess what? Once you account for them, the homelessness rate is even higher. Now, and it says, or families doubled up with others, or, how many people are doubled up with others? It says 2025 homeless numbers represent a 14% increase for individuals and a 28% increase for families since the 2022 report. And isn't this supposed to be a state where they care about the family? And yet there's no family values when it comes to actually caring about people and remaining in housing. and then become homeless with kids. Instead of them actually truly helping you as a parent to be able to get yourself on your feet, they'd rather take your kids, put them in foster care, and then they'll give money to the foster parents to take care of the kid when that money actually could have went to you as a parent to help take care of your kid. And by the way, they'll be like, oh, that money's supposed to go towards the kid. But how can you take care of the kid without taking care of yourself as a parent? I mean, parents got to eat. Parents need a roof over their head. And it's just crazy. You don't live a separate life from your kids. It says Nesbitt said that down the line, there will be more supply as projects drawing on trust funds. The Live Local Act used land tools and property tax exemptions are built. When the units are being produced aren't necessarily matching what the greatest need is. That's why we're having this growing gap. As conversations ramp up about eliminating property taxes, Nesbitt says that he expects people to consider how it will affect low to moderate income homeowners and how it can be done equitably based on income and other factors. Here's the thing. Why don't we just stop trying to do this private-public partnership BS and actually let's just start doing just all public? And in order to fund it, let's just do state-owned or municipally owned public banks in order to build that infrastructure so that we don't have to worry about trying to do it through some nonprofit industrial complex program or some private company to be able to do it. Why not just do it that way? Because here's the thing. They're always going to want a return on investment. They're always going to want an ROI. For the state, there is no need for a return on investment when it comes to monetarily. The return on investment, it means that your citizens are able to live. That's the return on investment. That's it. That's all. And so then the incentive to increase prices or to raise prices dramatically doesn't really exist. I mean, if you want to increase prices in order to make sure that your operations are being paid for, like the maintenance workers are paid a living wage, the people who do the landscape are paid a living wage, and the buildings kept up to code in a proper way, then yeah. But I mean, that money that you're going to spend on that is going to be negligible. As far as trying to make profits, you're not going to need that, because if you're building it through socialized housing, and yes, I said socialized housing, cry to your big bone mama about it, then guess what? People are actually going to be able to thrive, because number one, you're not going to be charging them these obscene amounts of rent in order to be able to live. And if you want to do it as a program so that people can get more on their feet, fine. But at the same time, people should not be homeless within this state. Especially since we're giving billions of dollars to Israel, which they have free healthcare, free college, and free childcare. Instead, let's retain that money here in the state of Florida instead of getting bonds to Israel. Says many folks are experiencing that instability are part of our workforce. Most of the folks that this report calls out, these are folks that are working jobs and working many of the jobs that power our state's economy. Ron DeSantis said that the voters will be able to decide whether they want to pay property taxes or not during the 2026 election. He said his office is researching how it can be done. Now, Dominique Calabro said that the demand for affordable housing is not new to most households in Florida. As inflation and cost of living continue to increase, the cost of housing and other necessary basic needs of individuals to continue to be a financial challenge. The Live Local Act was a 2023 measure that gave tax breaks to developers creating multifamily residential properties for people making around or below the median income. It says Tax Watch recommended a legislator create tax credits for building homes affordable for middle-income families, credits to adapt historic properties, and low-income housing tax credit for rental properties to augment the federal credits. Florida Policy Institute advocated for restoration too. So thing is that if we're seeing this rise, who's to blame? I would say it's not just corporate landlords, but it's really landlords, period. Because ultimately, now you have to charge rent according to fair market value so that you can, make your money. Which, being a landlord is not a job. I don't care what anybody says. Like, just owning property and charging rent is not a job. And they'll say, well, we have to pay for the taxes. We have to pay to make sure the place is maintained. And I'm like, well, why not just maintain and pay taxes on your own place? Like Xi Jinping said, houses are for living in, not for speculation. And then because you're hoarding all the housing, guess what? That's raising the prices. And it's inflating the prices as well. A lot of people are thinking to themselves, well, we just need to build more affordable housing. Well, technically, we actually have a pretty significant housing stock. All we need to do is just put them up the code, and we can actually use a public bank in order to be able to do that. And you can use that money to hire construction crews in order to be able to make sure they're built up the code. It's not that hard. Problem is that means that locks out private companies. But these private corporations are the reason why we're at this point anyway in the first place. We're at this point now because of private corporations. And so people who think to themselves, well, we just need to build more housing. It's like, yeah, we need to build more housing. But at the same time, that building the housing, it doesn't mean a damn thing if it's going to be profit driven. That's my biggest issue. Is that it's profit driven. And whenever something's profit driven, that means that somebody's going to get locked out. And if somebody gets locked out, that means somebody's going to die. And the costs of living have expanded so much to the point where you now need to make at least $37 an hour in the state of Florida in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And it's increasing day by day, year by year, in other places as well. Let me share this with you as well. Credit to Roger Meadows for this. And then I will also get to this photo as well that I wanted to share with you guys. But here is the National Low Income Housing Out of Reach report that's done every single year. And here it is in Florida for 2025. If it will load. Hello. All right, there we go. All right. So you need to make $37.27 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the state of Florida. Here are the 5 most expensive areas in Florida: Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, Monroe County, West Palm, Boca Raton, and in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. And last year, Orlando area was one of these in the top 5. I think it probably slipped down to number 6, but it's still within the top 10. And so at Fort Lauderdale, you need to make at least $45 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, which is crazy. We're at a point now where you're nearing having to make 6 figures in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's wild to me. Absolutely insane. And when we say that this is unsustainable, we mean this is unsustainable. People are not going to be able to live. So now you're going to have a whole bunch of homeless people out in the streets. And then guess what? They're already making homelessness criminalized. So if you're going to be out in these streets and you criminalize homelessness, what's going to happen? Shadow slavery comes back, because slavery still has an exception if you're duly convicted for a crime. So if you're duly convicted for being homeless, guess what? You're going to get a home, but you're going to get a home behind bars. And they're going to force you to work for these corporations, which means chattel slavery comes back. Let me share this with y'all. This says, Texas, Florida lead in financial distress. Lone Star and Sunshine states top the list with the most people in financial distress. So states with people with most financial distress, the ones that are in the blue are less financial distress. And the ones in the red are the ones that are most financial distress, and the ones in the middle are closest to white. And as you can see, it's not just red states, it's blue states and whatnot, what have you, right? So Texas and Florida both have the most. So as you can see there, Texas, Florida, and then Louisiana as well. So Louisiana is also included in this. Texas, Florida, Louisiana. And then you have Nevada, which is coming up behind. And then you also have South Carolina. Then you have Oklahoma, Mississippi, North Carolina, Kentucky. And then after them, then that's when you get to Georgia, Alabama, Arizona, California. And then you have Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, New York. Right? And so then the one that's kind of like really in the middle is Utah. Utah and Nebraska. That's it. And kind of Pennsylvania. But these are states that literally are in financial distress. And so, as we see here, there's so many people that are going through it. And look, my rents have exploded exponentially. I think in 2019, my rent was like $950 at my last place. And then by the time we hit 2021, we were at I think we're at around 1350, maybe 1350. Yeah. By 2022, I think around 2022, we were at 1350. And one of the members of the HOA board, because we were renters, one of the members of the HOA board convinced them to not raise our rent. Why? Because me and my mother were both on fixed incomes. I'm disabled and my mother's elderly, both on fixed incomes. And they're raising the rents on us. The cost of living increase in Social Security does not cover how much they were raising our rents. And their excuse was, well, we got to go by fair market value. Fair market value. Everybody else is renting for this much for a 2-bedroom. I don't care. Look, if everybody jumped off a bridge, does that mean you have to jump off a bridge too? And it's not like they're still paying a mortgage on the place. They own the place outright free and clear. The only thing they're responsible for is a property tax. That's it. So all the rest of our rent that they're getting is pure profit. And so they didn't need to raise our rent. They wanted to because they want that money. And so this is why it's so important for us to decommodify housing, Also, to get rid of private equity from owning housing, ban it, make it illegal. Private equity should not be owning housing. Private equity should not be owning anything in healthcare. Nothing in education. No, make it illegal. How can we do that, JB? Well, Florida's a ballot initiative state. If you live in a ballot initiative state, there's a lot you can do as far as direct democracy. You may not be able to end capitalism through direct democracy, through ballot initiatives, but you damn sure can slow some stuff down. So this is why I think it's so important that we dispense with the whole, oh, well, we just got to build more affordable housing. Well, yes, we got to build affordable housing. Number one, we got to build affordable housing. Well, affordable is subjective. Affordable for whom first? Because to a person that's homeless, free is affordable. Housing first. Give them housing and then everything else will follow. Don't make people jump through hoops just to be able to get through housing. No. Give them housing first. Trust me. They'll recover and then they will be able to do better once they have the housing. Once that's secured, they'll do a whole lot better. Finland is already doing it. Homelessness is damn near extinct in places like Cuba, North Korea, and China. They ain't got to worry about it. So let's do that. Well, you want me to pay for it? Yes, I want you to pay for it. Because we're a society. That's exactly how it works. You pay for education, yet your kids are grown. But guess what? Those kids that are grown, your kids are grown, but guess what? You're paying for that education. Some of those kids that are educated are also part of the society that you depend on. You pay for the roads and bridges. Some of them roads you don't drive on, but you pay for them. You pay into Medicare, but guess what? It's not just going to just you. It's going to all your fellow people who are going to be over the age of 65. You pay. Some of y'all have state income tax that pay for your government representatives. Well, guess what? Not every representative is your representative, but it still goes to the representatives throughout the government. You don't use the police all the time, but guess what? It goes to the police. You don't use the fire department all the time, but it goes to the fire department. Y'all don't say nothing when it comes to war, especially money going to a genocidal state that's killing little brown kids, and that wants to expand it to Africa. I don't hear y'all complaining about that. And then on top of that, why not just build a public bank? So you won't have to increase taxes that much. And if you care so much about your taxes increasing, well, guess what? If you're not making a huge amount of money, then you ain't got to worry about it. But the people who live in places like Alworth, Windermere, West Palm Beach, and those rich areas in Florida, oh, yeah. You exploit the people, guess what? You got to give back. Billionaires shouldn't exist anyway. I'm looking at you, John Morgan. Is the rent too damn high? You're damn sure it is. Guess what? We're going to fight for a system where it won't be too high. Hell, let's fight for a system where we won't have to rent at all. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for that. Please go ahead and like the stream. Let's check on, see if we have any Rumble rants. And we are good there. And let's go into to see if we have any gifted subs on Kick. I get all these people going, oh man, you should do this. I check your videos on Kick and you need to get in contact with me so that we can be able to help your Kick channel grow. And I'm like, you telling me all this, and number one, you haven't sent in a gifted sub. You all up in my chat. Number one, you haven't sent a gift to sub. Number two, if I want my channel to grow, I'm gonna get people to actually come to my channel and grow. I'm not gonna toss somebody into trying to get my channel to grow when they're gonna be expecting some payment for me to help my channel grow. No, I'm gonna do this shit organically. So if you are gonna keep putting in, if you're gonna keep, responding in my chat, trying to get me to grow my channel, and you're not doing that thing for free, I guess you're in the wrong chat. Anyway, no gifted subs. All right, thank you. And I get emails like this too. Oh my goodness. Well, looks like your SEO score on YouTube isn't doing as well as it should. So you should hire me in order to be able to make your channel grow. First of all, I'm not even monetized on my channel. So there's that. Number one, because I dared speak out against the genocidal state and showed what Palestinian resistance was doing back in 2023. Number two, I'm not about to pay somebody to help me grow my channel. Unless you're doing it for a volunteer, then I guess you're going to have to look for somebody else. And then on top of that, these same people that are like, oh, well, I see your SEO is very low. No, you didn't, because I actually checked my SEO too. And my SEO is usually very, very high, especially for my clips. So guess what? You're lying. You're just trying to get money off of me. How are you going to try to get money off of somebody that's broke? Anyway, let's get into the chats. Jacqueline says, are these rent spikes another case of the market deciding? And is the market a euphemism for greedy person? Yes, it is a euphemism for a greedy person. They're like the invisible hand of the market. No, it's just greedy people wanting to raise their prices because they want to have another yacht. Edward says, I never met a compassionate landlord. Me neither. And some people will be like, oh, well, there's some nice ones out there. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, you're literally owning the means of production, and you're charging people simply for the fact that you own it. And you're collecting money off of it. And some people are like, well, they don't raise my rent and things like that. And I'm like, okay, then why don't they just sell it to you? Why don't they just do a rent to own? Or some people go, well, they inherited it. And I'm like, okay, so why don't they live in it? Well, they can't move there. They have their own place. All right, then sell it. Or they're elderly and they need that money in order to be able to survive. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the problem with the system in the first place, is that they shouldn't have to have that. Also, if they were collecting rent for all them years and they still don't have a nest egg saved up, you want a nest egg? All right, sell it. Make money off of that and then live off the rest of that. I got issues for everybody. I'm telling you. John says, and my spouse wants to move to either Orlando, Florida, if not somewhere in Texas. Baby, I'm telling you right now. Everybody goes, oh, well, it's so much cheaper until you get a job here. Once you get a job here, it's going to be commensurate with the same rate. Look, you're not, unless you're working remotely, already someplace up north, like let's say you're living in New Hampshire, right? And let's say in New Hampshire, you're making $120,000 a year and you're able to work remotely from home and you don't have to ever come into the office. And then you can just move to Florida. And then because you're living in Florida, but you're still making New Hampshire money. Okay, I get that. But if you're working someplace and you have to transfer down here in Florida, their pay rates are going to change because that's the pay rate in Florida. Or if you have to find a new job here in Florida, guess what? Your pay is going to go down. And so the same amount that was going to be expensive for you, it may be lower, but guess what? You're still going to be at that same, like, damn near unable to afford the rent. That's the crazy part. It's like the proportions are going to be the same. So you're not really making good out there unless you're working remotely and you don't have to change your pay doesn't change from where you were living. Outside of that, that's it. And then even if you did still get paid what you did up north and you moved down here, who's to say they're not going to let you go? And then if you're living someplace that's a little bit more pricier and they let you go, you're going to have to look for a job in Florida. And guess what? You're going to get paid less. It's also causing that intrastate gentrification is also causing the prices in places like Florida to go up. So I'm telling you right now, in about a good 10 to 15 years, Florida will be comparable to New York. Kate Mack says, "Oh my God, that's crazy. What's the minimum wage where you live?" It's September 9th. Okay, so by, I think it's either September 1st or September 31st. But this month it turns to $13 an hour. This month. So everybody who's making minimum wage at 12 should get bumped up to 13. But because that's the state minimum wage. And it's going to end, or is it coming up to 14? No. Yeah, so it's going to be 13. And then it's going to go up to 15 by after September of 2026. It'll be 15. And then it goes up according to inflation after that. Beldar says it's a game of musical chairs run by people who never have to stand up. Absolutely. Roger. Yep. Blame Obama for not bailing us out. Yep. And black wealth tanked under Obama too. Obama didn't care about black people. By the way, all skin folk ain't kin folk. Same thing with Kamala Harris. Same thing with Hakeem Jeffries. Same thing with James Clyburn. Same thing with Chantel Brown. Damn near all of them. All skin folk ain't kin folk, and a lot of them, they just looking out for themselves. Kate Mack says, and they wonder why we have such a big homeless population. Exactly. Just in Central Florida alone, homelessness went up by 156%. Just in Central Florida alone. It's crazy. And yes, I'll get you your DM, Roger. Jacqueline says, for people who are living in absolute poverty, and no one should be, housing should be free or pay what you can afford. And this is why we have programs like Section 8. But the problem is with Section 8 is, number one, it's very stringent. Very stringent. And then on top of that, with programs like Section 8, the line is so long that it's years long in order to be able to get a Section 8 apartment. And then a lot of landlords are now not wanting to take Section 8 at all. So your apartment choices are extremely limited. Extremely limited. Vicky Adams says, JB, great coverage. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Sela says, imagine all the progress Cuba has made with close to 100 years of United States economic embargoes. Yeah, and they did it while being sanctioned embargo. It's crazy. Just imagine what they could do if they didn't have their hands tied behind their back. Lose says a lot of bourgeois liberals really misunderstand Adam Smith. He's really clear in that economy needs to work for the people, and if it doesn't, it needs to be changed or even replaced. Yeah, and Adam Smith was also against landlords. He's supposed to be considered the father of capitalism. He was against landlords. He said it was a holdover from it was a holdover from feudalism. Yeah, Edward says Section 8 is based on income. Yes. The problem is that once you start to try to save up money, or once you even get the ability to save a certain amount of money, like I think if you start to save more than like $1,000, something like that, then they start to look at you like you're making too much. We can't have you on Section 8. But then when you're not on Section 8, you're subject to the markets. And the markets, you can't afford what's out there. And so then you're scrimping and scraping and barely able to afford, and then you become homeless. But then once you become homeless, you got to get back on the line to get in Section 8. But then once you get back on the line to get in Section 8, guess what happens? If you still got that job, you're making too much. So then you have to lose the job. But then you're even worse off. And then you're even worse off. And then by the time you get back on Section 8, you have to wait a few years, which means you're going to have to double up with somebody. Or you're going to have to live in a motel or hotel, which is actually more expensive because the motels now are charging, what, $800, $900 for a one room. It might be even more than that. It might be close to $1,200 for a room. And these aren't nice rooms. They're just bed, TV, dresser, microwave, refrigerator. Your kitchen is the bathroom sink, right? When you need to wash clothes, you either have to use the laundromat or you wash your clothes in the tub. And if it's just you or you and your significant other, okay, but what if you got kids? No privacy whatsoever. And all your stuff is in the room. Look, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. But so that's the problem. Anywho, we should have, this is why we should have, in my opinion, we should have government subsidized housing. We should have, high rises that are not high rise, but we should have apartment communities that are completely state owned. People look at me like I'm crazy for that. And I'm like, have you seen the rent? Are you struggling? But yeah, let's go. Ooh, excuse me. Let's go into this. Let's go to this here, and then we'll finish up. Okay, let me get in here. Alrighty. I did not want my stream to go this long. I had to be this long-winded. Okay. Thank you very much for this, Roger. Uh-oh. Hey. Okay. It says remove housing from the speculative market means treating it as a fundamental human right rather than a financial asset for investment and profit. This approach limits the practice of buying property with the sole intent of reselling it for a quick profit, which can amplify housing booms and busts. In a speculative market, housing prices are driven up by investors who hope to cash out later for a large gain. When houses are taken out of the market, the goal is to stabilize prices and prioritize housing for residents. Key concepts of a non-speculative market: focus on utility, not appreciation. Housing is valued based on its not housing is valued based on its use as a place to live, not its potential for investment returns. Reduce price volatility. By discouraging rapid buying and selling for profit, the market becomes more stable. This prevents sharp price increases during booms and protects against dramatic crashes during busts, which can harm communities and the broader economy. Affordability over profit. The primary goal is to ensure housing is accessible and affordable for people who need a place to live. Methods for removing housing from the speculative market. Community land trusts. A nonprofit organization acquires land and holds it in a trust, then sells the house on the property to a low or moderate income resident. How it works: a community land trust retains ownership of the land through a 99-year ground lease, which keeps the house permanently affordable because the price of the land is not included in resale value. Okay. Says benefits, protects residents from market fluctuations, build long-term economic security, and prevents displacement during gentrification. Tenant Opportunity Purchase Act says policies that give tenants, nonprofits, or community organizations the first right of refusal to purchase a building when it goes up for sale. How it works: this policy creates a time-sensitive window for tenants or mission-driven groups to purchase their building before it can be sold to a private investor. I actually like this. So tenants basically can put their money together, or even if, like, for instance, let's say the state of Florida builds a public bank, right? Then they could favor giving a low interest loan to a tenant group for them to own the building, so that they can collectively own the building as basically a living, apartment co-op. I'm just tossing out my mental thoughts out there. It says benefits: shifts ownership from speculative landlords to residents or community groups, which helps stabilize rents and improve housing conditions. Social and public housing. This model, used in countries like Denmark, finances and builds housing that is managed by nonprofits or government entities and protected from market volatility. How it works is units are distributed via a wait list, and the rent is kept cost-related rather than being driven by market forces. Benefits: guarantees a permanent supply of affordable housing outside of the private market, which offers long-term stability for residents. Lifting institutional investment. Says this approach discourages large investment firms from buying up single-family homes and rentals, which are often held vacant to profit from appreciation or rented out as short-term rentals. How it works: policies can include extra property taxes on corporations that own single-family homes or restrictions on short-term rentals. Benefits are reduces demand from investors, lowers housing costs, and increases the supply of available homes for residents. Says potential consequences: transition away from speculative housing market could have several impacts. Slower appreciation: property tax values would likely increase more gradually and predictably. Increase housing stability. Reduced price volatility and protections from eviction would lead to more stable housing for residents. Investor migration: capital would be redirected from housing to other asset classes. And shift in public mindset: housing would be seen primarily as a human need rather than a wealth building tool. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Appreciate it. Says, get this: the Santa Claus McHenry. Someone has a citizen-initiated constitutional amendment today. Hook them up with Nelson. Thank you very much. Home inequality by state 2025. Did you show me this before? I don't think you showed me this before. This is interesting. So this is home inequality by states. Florida is 49%. Oh my gosh, the most inequality probably is Louisiana, 50%. Wow. Georgia's 48, Alabama's 48, Mississippi's 48, Texas is 48. Wow. Florida's higher. Then 49 is Mexico. Yeah, California is 49. New York is 51. My goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay, and DC is the highest. Wow. Wait. 53% is DC. Wow. No wonder why they have a crime rate. Because the income inequality. Gini coefficient 2021, 53%. Average income of the bottom 99%, $61,102. The average income of the top 1% is $1.86 million. Top 10%, bottom 90% is $9.83. Top 1%, the bottom 99% is $30. Ratio is $30.40. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Roger. And let's continue on. He says, we remain number one for a decade. Got time to read Shelley Grossman article? Not really. I was trying to end like 30 minutes ago because I still have a lot of editing to do, and I'm not gonna be able to do my clip that I wanted to do. It says high-speed rail and broadband needed not only work but from home and to reduce traffic. Yes. My landlord is compassionate and full of grace. I am 11 months behind. God looked out. After removing housing from the speculative market, provide those who can't work with a UBI pay the cost of living. Scroll up, go down, it shows the oh yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that. All right. So I have to get going because this is longer than what I wanted it to be. But also, Joey says this route is used in many of the land-back initiatives that the Strait Tribal Nations, communities, water protectors, and indigenous nonprofits have done. JB, if this has a link, could you provide information in the chat? Sure. So here is about what happened in Florida. I'll put that in the chat. And then the link that Roger sent me about income inequality, that in the chat as well. I have that. Oh, and then also, let me see. Trying to see if it can look. It has a shorter link. I guess not. Let's do also the screenshots for low-income housing, national low-income housing, and then I will do this in the out of reach. So you guys can have that too. Okie dokie smoky. All right, so you guys have that there too. Alrighty. So, guys, Who do I have coming in next week? I think I have a guest. And by the way, there's no Sabby. Oh, by the way, there's no Sabby and JB show this Thursday. Sabby got some things to do, and so I should just do a reading. Because I'm really behind. Hang on, let me see. I know I got a guest coming up. Yes. Okay. So yes, next Tuesday, Jordan Sheridan from Status Quo will be joining me next Thursday. We'll be talking about news stories as well. So be sure to tune in for that. And then on top of that, make sure to tune in tomorrow evening for Nick on RBN. And then Savvy Sabs will be going live in 45 minutes. So be sure to tune into them as well. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in because this was a great show. And I hope to be able to get that clip out for more breaking news. I can probably try to do that tomorrow. But it's been busy. But yes, guys, take care. Do all the things if you got. Look, water your plants. Water your. Have you drunk water today? Water your plants, water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them. Drink them if you got them. If you ain't got them, then watch something funny. Because joy is revolutionary. I love you guys for watching. We're head kisses. I hope you guys have yourself a beautiful day. Hug yourself real tight. And hug your loved ones real tight. I'll see y'all in the next one. Deuces. Thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Forehead kisses.